Hey everybody, we've got my great friend Rita Dickinson in the house, and I'm just so honored that she is my first interview, and I couldn't be more excited. She's been on several different podcasts, a lot of them that you know, and she's interviewed with a lot of big people, and it's kind of hard to get her because she kind of stays in the shadows. So I have her, and I've got my questions ready, so let's go.
Call it under the radar, not in the shadows. Those bad
Rita's
people
under
in
the
the shadows.
radar. Yes. Rita, you know a lot about silver and gold. So I wanted to talk about the Fort Knox thing and Elon and trying to snoop and see what's there or what's not there. What
Well,
are your
listen,
thoughts?
I am so excited about the Fort Knox. I told one of my clients the other day, a younger person, and she didn't know what I was talking to. And then I told somebody today who's older like me, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. And it was, I think it's going to end up like Geraldo when he went into the to the to the vat and it was empty, into the
Right?
safe and it was empty. I can't wait. You know, 30 years, longer than 30 years, because I confronted somebody about it 30 years ago, but I knew about it years before that. And
Wow.
it's funny, Michelle. How did I get on this road? I got on this road from Bible. Okay. I was raised Catholic. My husband was raised Pentecostal. You don't think that caused a little angst? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it did because I felt really cheated. Like he knew stuff I didn't know. What is this end time revelation stuff? So I started going to Bible studies and they started talking about all this stuff. And I started buying books. And one book led to another book, and it led to the Illuminati. It led to the Council of 300. It led to um, the, oh gosh, um, I don't know, just all the different groups. There's so many different groups out there that don't play fair.
Right.
It's all about corruption. And I am so tired of the corruption and I can't wait to see the truth. And I've waited a long, long time to see the Fort Knox thing come out. And it's like, oh, here we go.
That's awesome. Well, they're saying purportedly that there were 450 billion, or I guess a half a trillion ton. I mean, that's so in the mid 70s. I got to tell you this because I don't know if you know this story. I just heard this one. In the mid 70s, there was a cousin of one of the Rockefellers did an interview with one of the papers that published this story. And she stated that the Rockefellers, specifically David, personally supervised the removal of most, if not all, the gold from Fort Knox and sold it to Europe to pay off debts and other things. 2 days later, she's getting fresh air on her balcony and she's gone. She dies.
Wow.
So she fell and died. I mean, if that doesn't just, it's either gone or it's replaced with something painted, or I mean, I don't know. What do you think they're trying to get everyone's
The
attention?
gold is in there. They put it back in the last 2 weeks. That's what I
Okay,
believe.
right.
Seriously.
Well, with all
It
the drones and surveillance, I'm sure somebody saw it.
Well, most people don't know a lot of the story about the gold for the US. Let me just tell you a couple of things. One, well, it goes way back, but I'll go back to the Federal Reserve being instituted in 1913. And then they confiscated everybody's gold in 1933. And they went into a room and it was $20 an ounce. And an hour later, they come out and now it's $35 an ounce. But they didn't let the people experience that. They did that to make themselves rich. Okay. They have manipulated gold and silver so much. And what's amazing is what's going to make it crash. Everybody wants to know, when is gold going up? When is silver going up? Well, it's when the London bank crashes. The Bank of London, the Bank of England, whatever you want to call it, it was where one of the Rothschilds started. He lied to the people and told them that Napoleon had won. and the stock market crashed. He bought it all up. And then when the truth, he had a homing pigeon that brought him a message. And it got there quicker than the horseback rider. Okay. But when the horseback rider got there, he told the truth about Napoleon had lost, and the stock market of England went back up, and he made a ton of money. A ton of money. Well, in okay, so that was 33 in the Bank of England. Um, during World War II, General MacArthur, it's funny, when I was 13 years old, I lived on a street called MacArthur Road. And Nimitz Circle, and it was all the generals from World War II were the names of the streets around me.
Nice.
Crazy. But MacArthur took a ship with all the gold that they confiscated during World War II, and that was a lot because they cleaned out a lot of the Nazi gold and took it, and they put it on a ship, and the sailors on the ship delivered it to the Philippines.
Good.
And then they killed all the people that were on the ship, so nobody could tell where the gold went.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't care.
No
They do
regard for
whatever
human
they
life.
want to make things happen. Okay.
Right.
So they did that. I always tell people, remember the Marcos couple, Imelda Marcos and all her shoes?
Oh, right, right.
Okay, she was somebody who she had like, I don't know, 20,000 pairs of shoes or something totally ridiculous. Okay, I don't remember the number, but you get the point.
Right.
And it was because they were making the money for guarding the gold. So we also know when 9/11 happened, I was talking to a few friends. There were about 5 or 6 of us standing around, and we were talking, and it was like day 3 after 9/11, and they were talking about the body count. And I'm like, the body count will stop when they bring the gold out. They're just moving the bodies to get to the gold. Okay, people, they don't care about the bodies. So they brought in 11 Brinks trucks in front of building 1 and 2. And I thought, well, there it is. They're taking the gold out. No, the gold was under building 7 that fell down with no airplane. It was a demolition.
Mhm.
And they took the gold out in trash trucks. It went down. These are witness reports that I watch videos on people
Wow.
talking about this stuff. And they took the gold in these trash trucks and they went down to the Hudson River and they put it on a ship. And nobody knows where it went after that. So we can
London,
guess. Yeah,
just a
who
guess.
knows? Probably went to Ukraine. No,
Well, everybody talks about that movie V for Vendetta, and then you see London just burning, and it's like, and then the dominoes. It's like, is that the first domino? Like, what do you think is going to happen to cause the price of gold and silver, especially silver, that's totally suppressed on purpose? What do you think is going to make that go up?
the paper. There are so many people that own gold and silver, GLD, SVL. They own all this gold and silver and paper
Yeah.
from their stockbrokers, from their, you know, financial managers, blah, blah, blah. And it's not worth the paper it's written on. And, you corrected me the other night when we were on that other show, and you said it's like 500 to 1. You're
Well,
right.
online, you could find 250 online. You'll sometimes hear like Bix Weir say it's probably closer to 400, but they literally have 250 to 1 ratio with the paper market and physical silver on the internet. So if you want to be conservative, you can say that. Um,
Well, let's say
you-
300.
right,
300 to 1 is still a problem.
right.
If I was selling peanuts and somebody was coming to me for peanuts, but I didn't have any peanuts and I just gave them a piece of paper, they still don't have any peanuts.
So
I
what
don't
would
care
make them
what.
all want to cash in their paper at one time? Something like a spectacle like Fort Knox, or what's the build? What do you think they're gonna, I know we don't know, but
No, we don't know, but it's going to be fantastic, whatever it turns out to be. I
right,
can't
right,
wait to see it. Q used to say, get your popcorn and watch the movie. Oh, yeah,
right, right,
it is a movie. They know everything. When you start looking at these Q posts and these deltas that are connecting, and they're 6 and 7 years old, and you're just going, how did they know that back then? I
right.
mean, JD JD Vance was in one of the posts.
Oh,
All
I
this
missed
stuff
that.
went over our head. It all went over our head. We didn't know. I know when I first started following Q, I was like, who is this person saying all this truth? I thought it was fantastic. And I still don't know who it is. Nobody does. There's a lot of theories out there, but I don't believe it's just one person. I believe it's
Right.
a team. Anyway,
And
um,
Q said gold will destroy the Fed.
gold will destroy the Fed. You're exactly right, Michelle. You are exactly right. And it
So,
will, okay? Because when 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 people realize I don't know, is it going to be a stock market crash in England or here or where or what is going to trigger the people wanting to cash in their paper?
mhm.
What's going to make them wake up? I don't know, but something is, and we'll have to see what that is. But when they do, they're going to start demanding, you know, give me my gold, give me my silver, and there isn't any there.
Yep,
I've always said, if your gold and silver is not in your hand, you don't own
you
it.
don't own it. Right. Well, and then maybe you won't be able to get it.
That's the other problem. There are companies that will sell you metals, and then they say, we'll put it in our safe, in our vault, in our
Yeah.
whatever. You still don't have it in your possession.
Right.
It's
Right.
somebody else's possession.
Yep.
We know what that's like. I mean, they'll kill you for $20. What about millions in gold and silver? And it is going to go up. I don't know when. I don't know to how much. I believe my opinion is gold should be on par with Bitcoin. And I don't like Bitcoin at all.
Right.
I believe BTC for Bitcoin stood for baby trafficking coin.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Oh,
they told us that it was evil. They told us only bad guys used it. I mean, they said these things out loud. And then here they come acting like Bitcoin's the best thing on earth. Well, I have challenged everybody I know. If you've got a video of Trump saying he wants Bitcoin, send it to me. And nobody has sent me one. The only thing I got was when Trump went into New York. He went to a restaurant or a store or something, and he got the guy next to him to help him, and he got Bitcoin
right.
on his phone,
I
and he
did see
paid
that.
for something with Bitcoin. But he's never said Bitcoin in the what's it called, the reserve. Um,
Yeah, the strategic reserve.
yes,
I thought
yes.
that's what I was going to ask. I thought that he mentioned that, but then somebody else said that he said it was XRP and
No, he only says crypto.
okay.
He doesn't say specific ones.
So people like to
However, I know there was a week about a month ago that 3 times the head of Ripple was in Mar-Lago
right,
visiting Trump.
right.
Okay, that's significant. If you look at XRP, it's the rails of the new financial system, and
Yep.
and that's what powers Zell, folks. That's why it goes like that. It's already running parallel to the old system. So when
Mhm.
they knock that system down, the new system comes up, and that's where we come in. And I love the name of your show, Cash and Coins and
Mhm.
Crypto, because that's what it's all about. But it's the ISO 200 coins that are going to be good. There are going to be a few others, but
Mhm.
it's all about regulation.
Yeah,
I've said for 10 years, we don't know the rules of the game yet. They
right.
haven't let us know the rules. So we don't know how to play. So you just buy stuff and hold it right now. But one day it is going to all play out.
Right. Right. Well, and I remember Trump's old tweet. He said, "I don't like unregulated cryptocurrency." And people took off and said he hates crypto, he hates this, he hates big, and it's like you didn't hear what he said. So then you have your
Right.
SEC lawsuit, enter XRP. Now you have regulation. Then he says, "Well, I sold my shoes. I don't know, $4,000 Trump shoes, whatever they were. And did you notice, this is what he says in the interview, people were paying with Bitcoin and some of those other new coins." So then that's what he called them. Some of those other new. So he's just introducing
New
people
coins.
into the crypto world. That's why he probably came up with his own Trump coin, I'm guessing.
You know, okay, I'm going to jump to the cash. Okay, we've talked about the Federal Reserve a little bit, but let's talk about the Iraqi dinar
Right.
because
You are the expert in my opinion on the currency revaluation. And that's a lot of the reason why people have you on their show. So I do want to talk about that. And then we'll circle back to the ISO tokens and XRP.
okay,
But yes, please explain this currency revaluation and what it means, because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there,
oh,
but there's also truth.
tremendous amount of
Yes. So educate us,
misinformation
please.
and that was another thing that Q had said. Misinformation and disinformation would be there, and we're seeing it, but yet the Q posts line up. It's like, how did he know this on that exact day 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even 2 years ago? Like, okay,
Right. Which was
so
teaching us to use our own discernment and to go study for ourselves and figure it out and look at everything and know what to pull out. This is an IQ test. And don't do too well because they might just knock on your door and now you got to go work for like Space Force. I don't know.
I
I
believe
think
it
it's an
is.
IQ test,
In fact, my
but
brother-in-law says it's an IQ test, and he thought the COVID shots were an IQ test too. Anyway,
yeah,
um,
another
okay,
show.
let's go back to Iraq. Yeah. Um, oh, it goes way back. It goes back to George Senior Bush's father. I can't think of his name at the moment, but he made a lot of money during World War II buying and selling currencies. Okay.
Okay.
And then there's something called the Wanta Reagan Mitterrand funds. Have you heard of them?
I know you've mentioned it, but you got to tell me again.
Okay. When Reagan was president, he hooked up with this guy. Um, I can't think of his first name, Wanta, and Mitterrand was the head of France. Okay. And they got together and they decided to tank the Russian currency. And they did. And the US bought a lot of it. And so when it came back, they made a lot of money. That's what they like to do. That's why people want to have war, because the money goes down. They buy a bunch of it. When normalcy comes back, then it goes back up. So Bush Senior, remember, he took us to war and with Kuwait. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kuwaiti dinar was at like $4 when they went to war, and it dropped down to near nothing. And the US bought a ton of it. And so then remember when Bill Clinton, now let's talk about, it's not bipartisan. They cross
Right.
political lines because they're all criminals. Okay. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so what they did was they crashed the Kuwaiti dollar. The day before, there was a full page ad taken out telling the people of Kuwait, your money's never going to revalue. The king is dead, blah, 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 blah. And the next day, it went back up to $4. Yeah. There are rumors that some places it went all the way to $9. I don't know about that. I didn't have any. I wasn't
Right.
there. But I knew a soldier that was there.
Oh,
And
wow.
just with the cash he had in his pocket, he made like $52,000
Oh my gosh.
when
Wow.
it went back up. Okay. Yeah. And so George Sr., now think about that. He implemented it. Bill Clinton cashed it in. That's how I start every red pill I want to talk to somebody about, because they don't want to hear all this stuff that's true. They just want to hear, okay, so I'll ask them a question. Questions are the best way to get people to talk.
Right.
And I'll ask them a question. I'll say, do you remember when Bill Clinton was president and we got out of debt and we had a surplus? How did we do that? And 9 out of 10 people say, oh, it was the .com. I'm like, it wasn't Apple. It wasn't, Microsoft. No, it was not. It was the Kuwaiti dinar. Okay. So then in 2003, we get rid of Saddam Hussein
Right.
because we can't have him wanting to go back to gold backed money.
Right.
They
He
just can't have
he
that.
was against central banks.
Exactly. That's why they took out Muammar Gaddafi. I had a neighbor years ago had a cat named Omar. Yeah, I think about that from time to time. It was fun. But Muammar was a good guy.
Yeah.
That's why they took him out. Saddam Hussein was a good guy. That's why they took him out. The president was a good guy. That's why they took him out. I mean, it's if you look everywhere, the dots connect. You know, you know me for a while, but my brain works like the detective ball, where I got little scraps of paper
It
everywhere,
does.
and every string leads to everything else. It's all connected,
Right.
all connected. Okay, so George Sr. taught George W. That's what we call him, W. And he taught him how to do the currency thing. So nobody asked this question. When 9/11 happened, they show
Um,
us like 12 guys that they say were Saudi Arabians, and that's who bombed the buildings. But we went to war with Iraq. Does that make sense to anybody?
no.
No.
And then they found their driver's license on the ground.
And you know what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. But they
I'm
didn't
like,
find one folder from any of the filing cabinets in the two buildings. And back then, 2002, how many filing cabinets were in an office? I worked at
oh,
a law firm and there were rooms of filing cabinets,
right. They
you
didn't
know?
scan their stuff, right?
No. And anyway, so W, he does the thing with Iraq. We go to war with Iraq instead of Saudi Arabia, which never made sense.
Right.
And but it was because I think Mossad was behind 9/11 and Cheney and Bush and Clinton and all of them. I mean, so corrupt. Um,
But
so
you
I,
were you were getting back to Bush too. Didn't they get rid of one of the buildings, not just like building 7, because there was information in there like on what Greenspan was going to announce at 10 o'clock that day, like the whole Nasara, not that I
Greenspan
want to.
told everybody the day before on
Hmm.
September 10th, he said, there's $21 trillion missing from the Pentagon. But everybody forgot about that when 9/11 happened. It never got brought out. I can't wait to see what Doge does on that. That's going to be
Right,
interesting too.
right.
And they're
Well,
coming up with all kinds of stuff.
I think it's going to be a lot of things at once. It's Trump, it's the Kennedy, it's everything. But how does the currency? I know there were people that had currency back when George Bush W was that they actually thought it was going to revalue at that time. I don't know what was going on back in '08 with all that.
Okay,
There are people that have been holding foreign currency for years.
absolutely. Me, 15 years. But it was '03. October of '03 is when they got rid of the Saddam Hussein money. They brought in
Hmm.
the new Iraqi dinar.
Okay.
The soldier I knew told me he was in Baghdad when they were unloading the pallets of the new cash. He
Wow.
was the one that made the money out of his pocket, right? He goes, "Oh my God, they're going to do here what they did there." And he bought a bunch of
He
it.
knew. Wow.
Now, it hadn't happened yet. The, everybody's like, well, where's this money going to come from? The oil. The Iraqis have so much gold and so much oil. There's stories of soldiers in Baghdad digging trenches and finding veins of gold just from digging trenches. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, it's that prolific. Um,
You're almost talking about like the Bretton Woods three and the Basel, where I think everybody's currency will be backed by their commodities of their country, and every country probably has more than we think they're sitting on.
well, they fixed it that way. Do you know how they fixed it? They fixed it because there is so much misinformation. It just drives me crazy. Um,
Hmm.
oh, what is it called? The Paris Treaty Act.
Right.
Everybody thinks that has to do with peace and all the. No, it doesn't. It's a list of the countries that loaned Iraq money. Okay, and they said they didn't have to be paid back except 20%. Okay, when you think about that, you're going, wait a minute. If I loaned you $100, would it be okay with me that you only pay me back $20? That makes no sense, does it?
No.
But if you give me something in exchange that's not gone to value yet, and it comes
Right.
back, say, I came up with this on a Sunday night, I'll never forget it. $5. If you take $100 and divide it by 5, you got 20. Okay. The Paris Treaty Act is all about the countries that owe Iraq money. Iraq gave them the new currency while it's low. So when it comes back, it fills all the coffers. You know, Trump's
Wow.
his number one thing he says is a level playing field.
Yeah.
That's what they did. And it
Wow.
just hasn't happened yet. And I thought in order to get back exactly what they gave, it had to be $5 a dinar. Now, Dr. Shabibi, who was the head of the money for Iraq, went to IMF when Christine Lagarde was head of IMF. And he says, we should be able to revalue at $16 to one American dollar because we've got enough gold and we've got enough oil and blah, 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 blah. And she kind of laughed and said, well, we'll give you the 322, which is what it was when it crashed, plus 20% for inflation. Well, that's somewhere in between 350 and $4.
Wow.
Okay. But the countries are going to get a higher rate. So I believe it's going to be over $5 because $5 makes them even, but they need to be paid interest for what they did. So I believe that's going to come back like that. And I don't know, Michelle. It's all so crazy.
So for someone that's never heard that before, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, in my grandma's drawer, I found some Iraqi dinar." So I've got like this hand. What does that mean for me? Does that mean that because I don't live there, like someday I'm going to be able to go to my bank in the U.S. and get $1 or $3 or $5 for something that maybe was paid 10 or 20 cents for or whatever? I mean, what does it mean
Exactly.
for people that have this currency or people have never heard of it?
It's going to happen. There was something that Bush W said when when 9/11 happened and we went to war with Iraq. He said, and there's videos out there, you can look it up. He said that the US people will not have to pay one dime for this war
Hmm.
because he knew they were buying the dinar and it would pay for itself. So we're waiting for Trump to do it. Obama didn't want to do it. Ted Cruz said, give the people $1. They'll be happy with $1. Oh, no, we won't.
When did he say that? I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and then Trump in that interview with Fox News, remember what was the question that was asked? And he said, like, it doesn't matter that they owe us money for all these wars or something like, because we're holding, what was that number? It was ridiculous. We're holding
I
this
don't
amount of
believe it.
Iraqi dinar. It was huge. It was
Right.
huge. So don't worry about it because we're holding, I don't know what, I'll have to look it up what that number is. And
18
then,
quadrillion dollar. Yeah, something
yeah.
crazy.
So if he's mentioning it and he's holding something that other people would say, that's a worthless currency, meaning you need 1 million to buy a loaf of bread, or, like what happens in Venezuela. Like you need
But
so
let me
much
say
money
this, you know, a million Iraqi dinar right now is somewhere between 900 and $1,200, depending on who
to
you
pay
buy
for
from.
US dollars.
Right.
Okay. So I pay $900 and I get how many Iraqi dinar?
A
1 million.
million.
So if I
And if
think
it
that there's
goes
a
to
chance,
350, that's $3.5 million.
or even if I thought it was $1, I would know, well, that's a good deal because that's $1 million. So even if you don't understand it and you want to just,
Anything is better than nothing. Yeah, right.
right. So people kind of look at crypto and they look at silver and gold and they really don't think about these foreign currencies, but it could just be this across the board thing. And I think it
Well,
probably
you know,
does start with the metals. Like if you don't revalue those first, how do you back crypto with, and I don't know how that's going to work either. Some people say it's
okay, the
just the,
ISO 200-22, that's backing it with metal. Metal is the only real money. It's in the Bible. Gold and silver is real money.
then
Nothing
that's
else
what it has to come down to, right? Constitutional
is
money.
backed
And
up.
that's why most of the states now are not taxing it, right? What are we up to now? 38 or that don't
Well,
tax
I
it
don't
because
know.
it's money.
It
So
is
why do we
money.
think Trump then is saying we're not going to tax cryptos made in the US like HBAR, XRP, XLM? Is it like a stable coin? Is it like money? I mean, I think that's curious.
Yeah, it is. I know you and I, our brains work a lot alike because we're always in the questions, the whys, the how.
Right.
What are
And
they
then
going
I
to do?
hear the skeptic over here and I'm like, yeah, but there was an episode. Don't discount Trump doing everything intentionally. You can laugh at him painting himself orange and then go read the Q post as Orange Man bad. He's mocking them. Everything he does is intentional and brilliant. And if you don't see it, don't comment because you're going to look silly one day, is what I say. But he
Well,
said on his show, his You're Fired show, The Apprentice, and he did I think 13 seasons intentionally. This is all about their words and symbolism and number coming back to him. There was something about that meaning. I can't remember. I think it was 107 that said it. Every time he said you're fired, he was saying, Osiris, you're fired. And he did it with 13 seasons. Anyway, there's so much that if you really look, it's there. And even if you don't believe that,
so
did
much.
tell one of the contestants, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you this because it's going to be worth something one day. And it was one of the, oh gosh, you could tell I'm climbing the hill. Not the dinar, but it was the bond. What's the bond? The Zim bond. Thank you. Is the Zim bond. He gave them one of the Zim bonds and said to hang on to this. Those are like $1. I mean, like they're paper. They're worthless. Why would he why would he do that? So I don't know. That's crazy to me.
Well, he's done a lot of brilliant things in the last month. I mean, a lot. But the funniest thing he said that I caught, and it probably went over most people's heads, was he was he doesn't call them illegal immigrants. He calls them invaders. And he goes, I'm sending the baddest of the bad invaders to Guantanamo Bay. And then he went, huh. And I hear it's really hard to get out of that place. And I laughed so hard because what is Guantanamo Bay for? It's for military tribunals and
Right.
executions, you know? And it, yeah, it's really hard to get out of that place.
I don't know. I think there's an expectation. That was one of the things that woke me up. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Steve Pachenik had made a comment on Alex Jones' show. Did you see what he did at Guantanamo Bay? Now look at the before aerial shot and look at the after, and it's just huge. It's expanded, and they've got like this
Oh yeah,
geriatric center. They've got a library for evidence. They've got a press room for, I mean, just look at that if you don't think he's
it's
doing anything.
huge. They can hold 30,000 prisoners. Okay. Um, oh, what's his name? Monkey Works. You know who Monkey
Right.
Works
Yes.
is? Oh my God.
Now, if
He
people
was,
don't know, he tracks the flights and
yeah, Monkey Works is brilliant. I mean, he is brilliant. I've been watching him for years, and he tracks airplanes. I worked for Continental Airlines for 8.5 years. So airplanes are in my purview, okay? And it got my attention. Who is this guy tracking these airplanes and what's he doing that for? And then he kept saying, well, this one is this and this one is that, and this one's fueling this one in the air, and this one is
military.
military, and this one has a circle around it. So that means that's a person of a celebrity of some kind, blah, blah, blah. Then he starts off with, why are they sending 12 flights a day from Washington, D.C. to Guantanamo Bay? It was because they were arresting people and taking them there. Okay. Then, about, oh, I don't know, a year and a half ago, he comes on his show and he says, okay, I get why they're taking them to Gitmo, but 12 flights left today from DC to Greenland. Well, we've got a military prison in Greenland, which I think is
Right.
why President Trump wants to buy Greenland. We've already got a ton of money over there with our presence of the US. And
Right.
I think that's part of it. There's also another prison in Alaska. There's, we've got a base in the Pacific Ocean that's not even on Google Maps called Diego Garcia. Hey, you want to know some interesting stuff? Google that.
Rita,
Um,
out of everything we've talked about tonight, we could have like 10 shows going. The
I
thing I
know.
heard when this thing first started and I woke up was Steve Pachenik and then it was Charlie Ward. And it was about the ballots and the sting operation and the watermarks and all of that. And Charlie kept saying the same thing over and over again. He said, we have this is from the ambassador he knew on the airplanes. We have the riots, we have 5G, we have the virus, we have the vaccine, we have the alien invasion. We all for what? To distract and yes, drain the swamp against to keep people not paying attention to a global currency reset. So if that's what this is mostly about, other than waking people up and cleaning everything up and showing everybody what's really they've been lied to and all of that. It comes down to the London banks, the Federal Reserve, everything he's saying with the IRS and the three-letter agencies, and it all ties together. So to just kind of
The Federal Reserve is a private corporation. They are not
out of
federal.
Puerto
They have
Rico,
no
yes,
reserve, and they're based in Puerto Rico.
yep.
The IRS is a private corporation based in Puerto Rico. And the thing I was trying to think of earlier was the Carlyle Group when I was
Oh,
talking
right.
about different groups. Okay. There was a hurricane in Puerto Rico, and I actually have a friend that lives there. And I was talking to him. The only building that got damaged was the
It's those what do they call them? DEWs, those yeah, energy weapons. Hey, the Georgia Guidestones went down and that made me happy. But
Michelle, I don't know you know this story, but I went to my niece's wedding in South Carolina, and it was cheaper. It was like $800 to fly into her town in South Carolina. So it was only $200 to fly to Atlanta. So I flew to Atlanta, I rented a car, and drove. Well, on the way back, I'm supposed to visit a friend of mine, and I left at like 7:30 in the morning because she lived in Atlanta, and my flight didn't leave until like 5:50. And and I called her and I said, "Hey, I'm on my way." And she's like, "Oh my God, Rita, I forgot to call you. I'm in New York. My mother's sick." And I thought, "Oh, great. What am I going to do the rest of the day?" I mean, that's a lot of time to spend doing what? No. Okay. So all of a sudden it hit me, Georgia Guidestones. I'm in Georgia. And I thought, okay. And I looked it up and I was like 30 minutes away. I was that close. I
Wow.
went to the Georgia Guidestones and I took pictures. I looked at them. There was another man and woman there. We were talking to each other, and you know, this hole would look at this star on such and such a day, and this it was like a calendar. It was what they wanted to say, where they
Mhm.
wanted a population of under 3 million in the world. We have 350 million in the US.
Right.
You know, crazy stuff. I laid my hands on those stones and I prayed that God would destroy them.
I love
And
it.
and then my girlfriend, when she found out about it before I did, and she called me, she goes, Rita, your prayers worked. They've been destroyed. I'm like, oh,
I
that's
love it.
fantastic.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And, you know, I don't believe it was just my prayer, but I believe there's a consciousness that when we get together and we think pure thoughts, we get things. And I think that's what it was. But it was remarkable. I still love it. I'm just like that.
Well, and we don't know what this is going to look like, but when we talk about these ISO 20022 tokens, and some people say, what are you talking about? To me, that's foreign. Well, there's about 7 or 8 cryptocurrencies that are in agreement with this new payment rail system. Okay, well, some people start to look into XRP and they get a little freaked out that, yeah, someday we're talking the blockchain. There is control. So if it's going to start out with good guys, end up with bad guys, I don't know. So
I
you
don't
can also
either,
look at
but
your
you're
dollar
right.
bill. It's got more satanic symbols on it. So there's people that won't touch it because they feel like it's this end time biblical one world currency. Probably, yeah. But
It
for
probably
now,
will be in the future.
for some
Yeah.
reason, though, it's deplorables, it's Christians, it's patriots, it's people falling into this category that aren't crypto people, they aren't finance people, they aren't people who invest. It's very interesting. It's people that will
Yes.
do good things with this abundance that it's going to bring because not millions or billions or trillions, quadrillions are coming over to the blockchain. So
Yes.
this $2 coin token, whatever, is going to have a lot of value because if one bank is sending it to another bank and they're sending trillions of dollars, they don't want to send 5,000 XRP. They want to send 5 or whatever. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we're trying to share with the world that there's a handful of tokens. We'll name them XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Algo, ADA, IOTA, and Quant. And we'll put them below. But there's certain ones so that you can go research the company. Why are their governing councils, their partners, their acquisitions all Google, Apple, LG, Wells Fargo, P&G, Merck, Microsoft? Name somebody that,
XRP is connected to every bank in the world.
right, all their central
XRP
banks.
is connected to most companies in the world,
Right,
unless you're a little guy, which
right.
they tried to get rid of with COVID. But um, there is so much to this. Yeah, we could do
I think
25
we'll have to
shows.
have a part two. We'll have to get into the cryptocurrencies, and then I'll also want to talk about Executive Order 13818, because if those companies, all the big ones around the world were seized, then Trump owns them. Oh, no, no. He's giving power back to the people. We own them. What is this sovereign wealth fund? What are these things popping up on the debt clock saying that that's our money? So
What do
those
you
things
mean
I
you're
think
going to
we
get a
should save.
$5,000 rebate? Yeah,
I know some said 8. Let's save that and do a part two. What do you think?
yeah, sounds good.
And then we can talk about Larry Fink and BlackRock and all that other good stuff. Rita, it's a pleasure. You're a doll. Um, Definitely want to do a second show, if you will. So
Absolutely.
thankful. Thank you for
Anytime,
coming. So
anytime.
everybody think big, dream even bigger, because nothing is impossible for all of us. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you, Rita.
Bye bye.